This episode of Success Through Connections is brought to you by Legacy Realty Group, North Florida, the team that treats your home, your time, and your goals as top priority. Real people, real results, real care.
Well, welcome to this week's episode of Success Through Connections. My guest today is Jackie Perrault. She's the Senior Director of Members and Community Engagement for the Association of Women's Business Centers. And I believe that's across the country. So, welcome, Jackie. Jackie is responsible for developing and evaluating the engagement initiatives for the AWBC of membership, and she's also in charge of supporting the programs to create the maximum recruitment and retention, which is so important, and being consistent in the messaging for growth and development for the Association of Women's Business Centers. She was prior to that, which is where I met Jackie. Jackie was the director for the Jacksonville Women's Business Centers, and that's in Florida. And she was also at that time a board member of the AWBC. And she was also the recipient. She was recognized to win not one, not two, not three awards, but 5 awards from the United States Small Business Administration. She's a superstar, and that's why she's now this Senior Director of Member and Community Engagement for the AWBC. So, welcome, Jackie, to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Zelda. I'm excited to be here, have this conversation with you today, and hope that our listeners get a little takeaway from what the programs that we offer at AWBC.
And that's what we're going to dive into. So, first of all, I wanted to ask you, how many centers are there across the states?
Yeah, so each state has a women's business center. We are from Alaska all the way to Puerto Rico. So we even have one on the U.S. territory of Puerto Rico. We are in the process of opening up another women's business center on the territory of the U.S. Virgin Islands. So there are over 150 women's business centers.
And
Some states, like,
manage all of those?
yeah, we work to support all of those. Yep. So some states, like Florida, have multiple women's business centers. In Florida, we now have 5 women's business centers. But other states are really covering the entire territory with one WBC, working to support women entrepreneurs at any stage of business. So
Wow.
this could be aspiring or emerging business owners that have an idea, all the way to already existing, moving to stage 2, but even succession planning and next level.
Well, we're going to get into some of those programs in just a minute. I wanted to ask you, what is the overall mission of the AWBC? What's the overall mission for across this country?
Yeah, to work for the economic empowerment of women's business centers by advocating on their behalf and strengthening their relationship with the U.S. Small Business Administration and the communities that they serve.
So I know that they have different programs. I wanted to know, does each center have the freedom to structure their own local programs, or is it all national programs? Because every community seems to be a little different. So do they do
Yeah,
their
that's a
own
great
thing?
question. Yeah, great question. And that's what's so unique about women's business centers under the SBA is that, yes, there are, they apply for a federal grant each year or a continuation of the federal grant, depending on what cycle that they're in. So there are guidelines to the Women's Business Center program, being that they have to serve unique clients each year. They have to empower business starts in their community. One of the biggest focuses under the SBA for women's business centers is that access to capital, or excuse me, and then jobs that they're creating. So those are kind of the guidelines, but when you like get narrow it or nail it down, the programs itself can be very unique to the communities that they serve. So we've got women's business centers in rural areas across the country, and then we have some in very urban areas. Those programs look very different, which makes them unique in the services that they offer.
So when you say that they have some of their own programs, which I would have thought that they did, can you share with us some of the more creative and impactful programs that you've seen in action?
Absolutely. So there are different programs and offered in different languages as well. So some of our women's business centers are highly skilled in retail, and they're creating cohorts around starting a retail incubator There are some programs, as I mentioned, in our rural areas that are working with agriculture in the US Department of Agriculture and creating like food truck opportunities or food fairs from local vendors. So, those are just a few examples. Manufacturing has become a wide importance across the SBA as well. So, there's different programs that are tailored to those different needs.
Are there some standout programs that you can share with us that are they're just really innovative at that center level?
Yeah, I would say definitely the retail incubators, those have been very successful. When you think about women entrepreneurs, they are usually taking something that they're very skilled in and creating that business opportunity from there. So, retail incubators have been a growing trend across the different WBCs. What they're doing with those incubators is they're curating a small group of female entrepreneurs, taking them through technical assistance training. Then, what they're doing as well is they're opening up an incubator space where these women who aren't quite at the stage of owning their own shop, maybe they've been selling a little bit on e commerce, which they'll continue to do, but this allows them a space where they can collectively sell together. So, say there's 5 members of that cohort, they'll have an incubator space for about 6 months, and they're popping up their different products to be able to sell, and then while they're doing that, they're learning how to become a general manager of a store, how to balance the financials throughout the different months. So that's been a really successful program. Another one that I'd love to highlight and has been wildly growing is childcare. The childcare pandemic across the country in the United States is growing, that there is not as much access to childcare opportunities. Women's business centers have really empowered women entrepreneurs to start up daycare centers and childcare programs that look wildly different across the country as well. Some of these are in home daycares, some of these are larger centers. But again, it goes back to that technical assistance and training that they're getting from a women's business center to be able to help fit the need of the US economy.
So you mentioned retail. That kind of surprised me because with all this online stuff these days, all this e-commerce, how do these women compete in a retail setting?
Yeah, it's definitely difficult. We've seen a little bit more of those retail incubators in urban areas. So in Maryland, they've been very successful, but we've also seen it in Missouri in a rural area. And these are, women creating a space where folks still like to touch tangible things. It
Yes.
kind of goes back to like reading your media. A lot of people, yes, will read the news or the media or different exciting things on their phone, but a lot of people still like to get that magazine or that newspaper. We see that with retail as well. So people like to touch the products, interact with the products before they purchase it, try it on. So they've seen success in that way.
So I'm just thinking of the new entrepreneur. She wants to start a business. She has an idea. She knows, and she has an online business or retail, whatever service, even. It could just be a service.
Yeah.
What are the first steps they should take when saying, well, I need some help? Let me contact the women's business centers. What's the process once they say, hey, I need some help?
Absolutely. So we know that women are often looking to a search engine of some sort to find support and help for their business. But what happens also is that we hear that they never even knew that there was a women's business center in their backyard, which, by the way, it is at no cost to get business coaching or counseling for a women's business center. That is your taxpayer dollars. So you never pay a fee. That is what's kind of doctrine through the Small Business Administration is one of the efforts. It's free business coaching and counseling. So the first step would be you can go to the AWBC website. So it's awbc.org. We have a women's business center locator on that website. So you can actually type in your zip code, find the nearest women's business center near you, connect with them directly, and reach out to request assistance. Another way, now say you can't find them through you're just not sure which one is better going to serve you. We've got a platform called Hope to Women. It's hope number 2 women.org. Hope stands for helping others by promoting entrepreneurship. And this platform is direct access to those women entrepreneurs. So while we know that they're not finding women's business centers, Hope to Women has created training and programs and a way for you to request assistance no matter where you are in the country. So say the nearest women's business center to you is 30 miles away, and that's just too far or feels unattainable to you, you can request assistance through Hope to Women at no cost again and get a consultation to understand your business needs. And then we triage and connect you with who makes most sense across the national network.
What are some of the programs? What do they do? I'm familiar with the ones obviously at the Jacksonville Women's Business Centers, like the marketing matters and financial and legal. What are some of the programs that some of these other cities are doing?
Yeah. So big focus is going to be that access to capital. We want women entrepreneurs, if you remember, women were non-fundable back in 1988. Women had to go get a business loan through a male relative
Oh, I
co-signer.
remember it.
So that is when the pilot program for women's business centers came to play. Still to this day, we are fighting access to capital and making sure it's an equal playing level field for women across the country. And by doing so, we're working with national partners to make sure that women are equipped and prepared before they go after capital. We're doing that very heavily through what we have on our Hope to Women website, which is a funding center. So this funding center is helping women who are ready to get that loan connect with a bank that is offering very unique products, the great interest rates, and looking at women businesses in a totally different scope than a traditional, maybe very large institution or bank would do.
Is the number one problem that women have is getting access to capital? Is that the number one thing is they don't have enough money to do what they want to do?
Yes, that is the number
What
one thing.
advice would you give the new entrepreneur, the young woman who wants to start her business? She's got a good business idea, but she's not ready to go to the bank yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that the lender is going to ask you is, do you have a business plan and a viable business plan? And we at the Women's Business Centers and at Hope to Win will help you and navigate what a business plan looks like. We even have templates on our Hope to Women Funding Center for women to be able to download. So getting that business plan up and running is going to be first. Then going after a cash flow projection. So understanding what your business, even though you're still dreaming and this is something you want to start, you've got to look at your business in multi years. So, where you want to be with your business in 3 years from now, in 5 years from now, and forecasting that. What kind of equipment will you need? If you were to have X amount of customers, then what would that take in order for you to get there? And forecasting that budget is going to be really important when lenders are looking at why you're asking for funding.
When it comes to buying, selling, or managing rental property, don't settle. Choose the professional team that's experienced, knowledgeable, and yes, they actually answer the phone. Legacy Realty Group North Florida is the full-service real estate firm that delivers peace of mind. With over 16 years of local expertise, their responsive and dedicated team makes the process smooth, personal, and stress-free. Whether you're selling your home or looking for a reliable property manager, Legacy Realty Group North Florida has you covered. You'll find their info right in the show notes.
So how do you advise the new and I'm thinking of some of the different people have come to me for advice. They see I've been in business for over 40 years and they go, "Okay, what can you I don't know how to market my company. I don't know how to get it off the ground. I'm not ready to ask for money yet from a lender or any of those sources." They're really and truly the small business owner, the little mom and pop. They're not opening up a restaurant. So,
Yep.
what are some of the programs that these centers actually offer besides getting your business plan? What else do they offer?
Yeah, it definitely like you had mentioned, like, around those marketing tools. Marketing is so important. It's building your customer acquisition plan and your customer development. So understanding who is going to be the customer. We always say that not everybody can be your customer. There's some
Right.
things that you'll offer that people just won't need at this time. So understanding what that looks like, but definitely developing your brand, looking and making sure that your brand name is not already being used somewhere else. We see businesses that have a great idea and they had no idea that somebody else had a trademark on a brand or a name. So definitely understanding that marketing component is going to be a first step. But when I say marketing too, it doesn't mean that go and spend tons of money on opening up a website. Start small. Start getting your kind of ducks in a row, building that business plan, which should be a living document, really helps guide you in a lot of those efforts because it's going to ask you those questions. So when you just start with the business plan and kind of document some of your ideas, you as a living document, you add to it, you evaluate it, and then you adjust where needed.
Yeah, it doesn't change once a year. It changes constantly. Yeah, it's very fluid. It's like I think people don't get that. They go, "Okay, I wrote it. I'm done." Like, no, you're not done. You're not done.
Never done.
It's going to change. So, what are some of the most common challenges that the centers have?
The centers themselves have a challenge of just kind of capacity, as we've seen even since the pandemic. Women entrepreneurs are on the rise. There are more and more women that are seeking support now more than ever. Prior to the pandemic, business owners were doing a lot of it on their own, and they weren't always asking for support or help. But when the COVID-19 pandemic came out, business ownership really took precedent, and you didn't have to do things traditionally. So some capacity levels of the Women's Business Center, and it's because since the program started back in 1988, it has never been modernized. We're still fighting for modernization with the federal government for the program nationally to make sure that if this program continues to grow, that the women's business centers themselves have the capacity and the staff and the resources and tools to serve the growing need of the entrepreneur.
So, are there any upcoming national initiatives or campaigns that the center directors or the community members should be getting excited about?
Yeah, absolutely. So each year, the Association of Women's Business Centers hosts an annual leadership conference. What we've seen as well is historically and in the past, this conference was really for women's business centers, those technical assistance resource providers to come together and strengthen their programs. But we're seeing now more than ever that entrepreneurs are attending our conference as well, and largely because of some of the partnerships that we have on a national level. So this year's conference is in September. It's in Washington, D.C. The theme is Power Up. And we're inviting entrepreneurs to attend this conference. And there will be specific tracks around childcare, manufacturing, rural development, and access to capital. And they're able and welcome to attend this conference and learn amongst the Women's Business Center. It's
And when is that going to be? In September?
September, it'll start the 22nd through the 24th.
Okay, so I imagine you have speakers and breakout sessions and all kinds of great things for the woman entrepreneur. That sounds exciting, actually. I might have to come. That sounds kind of fun. So, is there, I know a lot of people, like you said, they're not even aware that there are women's business centers out there. So, if someone is tuning in today and they're listening to us and they're thinking, "Well, I didn't know that there was a local women's business center. Why should I join it?" I'm thinking, what are they missing out on if they don't become a member?
Yeah, so and there's really no application to join. There's no membership fee. So really just coming to a women's business center to even bounce ideas, to get somebody to review the documents that you have. It's also becomes a support network. So you'll meet with other entrepreneurs that are, growing their businesses or aspiring just like you, and you'll meet with them and be able to connect with like-minded individuals to grow your business. So it's a community.
I love how you meet so many people when you go to these things. I'm all about the networking. That's what I write about. So I'm all about the connections, and you make such great connections when you go to these different events and things that the women's business centers have. Now, Jackie, you have a bird's eye view. You get to see what all these different states are doing, all the different business centers are doing. Can you tell us, have you heard of, maybe you've experienced it or maybe one of your center's directors have heard of it, that will when somebody joins or becomes a member of the Women's Business Center and they've taken some of the programs, has there been one real standout success story that you can think of with someone who really benefited from the Women's Business Center? I'm sure there's many, but is there any that really stand out with you?
Yeah, the testimonials and the success stories often come back again to the access of capital, that they had gone to a lender in their area or gone to a banker and were turned down or turned away and said, "You're not ready. This isn't your time. We don't have a product for you at our bank." Women's business centers have often been able to change that narrative by equipping and preparing entrepreneurs that are to gear them up to be eligible and ready for access to capital. I think as well, with we have a national partner with Stearns Bank, and that they're supporting our funding center, and they're not taking state lines, right? So they can support the entire country and all of the entrepreneurs, no matter where they're coming from, help grow their businesses. So we've seen a lot of those testimonials and success come from there.
Okay, so there's not one standout one then.
Not necessarily, no.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So, how can people support or partner with their local women's business center? And what's the best way for our listeners to connect and get involved with the centers?
Yeah, so support comes in various ways. So maybe you're not a business owner, or you maybe would like to support business owners. So there's a lot of volunteer efforts that women's business centers have in terms of teaching different courses, becoming a business coach or counselor, and guiding those entrepreneurs. Always, those women's business centers are fundraising often as well. So helping with any fundraising efforts, whether that's from yourself or maybe a relationship that you have. And then for the women's business owners themselves, taking just a leap of faith, going to a women's business center and seeing what they have to offer, setting up that initial request for assistance and technical assistance support, you'll really be surprised by how much growth you can achieve by just talking with somebody at a women's business center about your ideas or where you're at. And they'll sometimes bring up things you've never considered about your business.
So, how do you see these women's business centers evolving over the next 5 years? Are there new strategies, new technologies, new programs in the pipeline? How do you see this evolving?
Yeah, we've seen the network grow. So there has been open funding opportunities through the Small Business Administration. Each year, the Women's Business Center program has grown across the country. So we're really, and as I mentioned in the beginning, how we're trying to get on the US Virgin Islands as a territory, there's a lot of growth happening. And we're just seeing that from the demand of the country and where entrepreneurship is right now.
Okay. Well, I know that you are someone who's deeply involved with the branding and community engagement. So, what advice would you give the women entrepreneurs that are trying to build a stronger presence in their own local markets?
Yeah. So definitely creating a timeline of what you want for your marketing. So coming up with a schedule of, how you want to communicate and whether it's a new product or a service or something exciting that's going on with your business, whether it be an anniversary, a new hire, a testimonial from your clients. How can you capture that information and then create kind of a schedule throughout the year? If you can do, one or two different posts, either on social media, doing something live. We've seen a lot of success through live video these days is growing very much. So creating these, it's free to create a Facebook and an Instagram. I always highly recommend though for business owners to get on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Do it in twofold. So do it for yourself as the business owner, but then create a business page for your brand.
Yeah.
That way you can help kind of create a community of followers for each of them.
I share with people that there's no better time to promote your business than now on social media because it's very inexpensive. It's what you want to spend $5 a day, $3 a day, $20 a day, 50, 100, whatever it is. I mean, it's advertising today is very inexpensive compared to what it was years ago when you had to go put an ad in the newspaper, or a magazine.
Exactly.
And that could be the right place for you to be promoting and advertising, but social media to me is where it's at, and I think you hit the nail on the head with the LinkedIn and videos. It's like that's what I tell young entrepreneurs is LinkedIn and create a YouTube channel. It's like get it out there. Just be yourself. So this show is called I've got a signature question that I love to ask everybody. So our show is all about success through connections. I believe that people are not successful all by themselves. May look it, but they got people in the back there helping them get where they need to be. So, is there a story that you can share with us of how you have had success through the connections that you've made? Maybe someone opened a door of opportunity for you, or maybe you opened that door of opportunity for someone else through the connections you have. Can you share a story?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think my biggest story of shared connection would be volunteering to serve on the Association of Women's Business Centers board of directors. Through that opportunity, it was a voluntary type of application when I was at the Women's Business Center locally in Jacksonville, Florida. And because of that, me taking a leap of faith and saying that I believe that I can be on this board. I think women often don't think that they're qualified to be on certain boards. At that time, I probably didn't believe in myself as much as I should have, but I did take a leap of faith, applied for that board. And through that, I learned from so many powerful women across the country that were also serving on the board. And in turn, it opened up this opportunity for me to work with the National Association. So through the work that I did on that board, really opened up that door for our CEO, Corinne Goebel, to say, she's an important member of this board. We want her on our team, and I see ways that she can help our network grow. So that's been probably my biggest success.
It's absolutely is. When you join a board, you join something, you never know who you're going to meet. I do have one more question. It occurred to me that you have the different local centers. Does one join the local center, or do they join the one that you're running, the association of all the women's business centers?
So entrepreneurs themselves they're gonna be involved and take programs and such through their local women's business center. Those women's business centers that are across the country, they're supported by the National Association in terms of advocacy and growth and development. But if you're in your community, you would join the local women's business center.
Right, right. I can't recommend them highly enough. They're wonderful for not just the new entrepreneur, but the seasoned entrepreneur. You can definitely learn a lot from them and meet people and open up new connections and opportunities. Thank you so much, Jackie, for sharing your time with us today. It's been very interesting. I know that our network of listeners will now learn that pick up the phone and call their local or the closest chapter to them or center to them and join, because you really will get a lot out of the women's business centers. Thank you again for joining us today and for our listeners today. I hope you will like and subscribe to our channel, whether it's YouTube or on Spotify, Apple, or whatever app that you're using for this podcast. So until next week, keep making those connections, because success is through connections.
Thank you, Zelda.
When it comes to buying, selling, or managing your rental property, don't settle. Choose the professionals at Legacy Realty Group North Florida, the real estate company that gives you peace of mind.